Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Cinco de Mayo, and it happens to be Taco Tuesday. So here's the question: what are you having for dinner? So I'm actually having turkey chops, but that's anyway. The reason I decided I wanted to go live and just have this conversation is because I've had a lot of questions surrounding the state of real estate in Montclair, of course, because that's where my office is based out of. This is the town I call home. But they were asking about multifamily properties. So I wanted to just do a search of the Garden State MLS, which is the multiple listing service. And I wanted to talk about what is on the market right now in terms of multifamily homes. So I did a search and I wanted to see how many homes in Montclair are multifamilies, which are on the market, under contract, or have recently been sold. And recently, I'm going to use that term loosely. I did not restrict or confine my searches to any particular time frame. I just wanted to see whatever would come up under the sold status. So I will tell you, there are 6 properties that are multifamily homes and on the Garden State MLS service. Of those 6 homes, 3 of them are in attorney review. So I'm sure you guys already know attorney review is when a seller and a buyer have agreed to a purchase price for a home and some general terms. During attorney review, that really is an opportunity for both sides to really hash out any differences they may have regarding the contract that is currently placed on the home, and just try to come to an agreement that everyone and their attorneys can all agree upon, which then moves them to the status as being under contract. So, in terms of those multifamily properties, the entry level property, which happens to be an attorney review, is listed at $350,000. Now, the most expensive multifamily property is priced at $677,000. I will tell you that I have been in the higher priced home that actually was a home that had recently been sold by my mentor at a different price point that is probably closer to what the home is actually worth. So, what we don't know based on the photos of that listing is what improvements the new owner has made since they purchased the home last year. I would think it would need to be something pretty significant because this is a almost $200,000 change in price. And based on the photos I see, I cannot tell if there have been any improvements to this property. A quick look at the photos now. And yeah, I just wanted to confirm those details. So there's no photos that are presented online that tells me that there's been any improvements to that property. So I'm not sure how they got to that price point, but maybe they did improvements that they didn't photograph, which is, I guess that's based on whatever the seller wants. So out of the 3 properties, which are multifamilies in Montclair and still not flagged as attorney review, so it looks like they're available. There's one that's listed for 425. There's another listed for 5049. And then we have that higher price property at 677. I will say that everything that's listed on the market and available, or let me see. Yeah, listed as available or under contract, those are all 2-unit properties. So we are finding there are more maybe first-time buyers who are looking to become a homeowner, but what financially makes sense for them is to get a multifamily home instead of a single-family home. Last week we talked about the price point of single-family homes. So often people realize that there is the ability to become a homeowner, and then you're also really an investor, right? Because you're receiving rent income from that other unit that's in that home. So for some people who are looking to purchase their first property, that might be the best way that they are able to become a homeowner at this moment based on their personal choices and whatever their budget might be. But I think it's interesting in how they determine which areas are going to be okay based on a variety of factors. So how much of a setback a home has from the street or from another property. Um, there are many different factors that determine, what's zoned as a multifamily zone and what isn't. So we already know there are not tons of blocks in Montclair that are zoned for multifamily homes. This is definitely a single family town. Um, but then there's a whole nother area to consider, which is the larger development that happens. So when the likes of, say, Valley and Bloom come into town and they have 238 units, that's very different. But again, that's it's like in a commercial setting. It's right on Bloomfield Avenue, along with some of the other development that's happening on Bloomfield Avenue, which are bringing in a larger population of renters to this area. That, as we can see, there's not many multifamilies. So between all of those rentals that are coming, we're going to see an influx of growth to our town. So when I look at the properties which are under contract, so that means they've already gone through the process of having both sides attorneys review the contracts and come to some sort of an agreement. Once that process is over, the home is now under contract, which means this is the time that uh, a buyer would usually start to do their inspections. Is there an oil tank sweep that they want to complete to find out, did this home formerly have oil heat, and is the tank still on the property? And if it is on the property and it's not being used, then they want to find out, okay, well, we need to get this tank removed. And, then you have to have the soil tested. And these are times when you would have your home inspection, which of course is something that's very needed. When I go through a home with a buyer, we can point out and we have noticed that, okay, well, this looks like this might be an issue or that might be an issue. But ultimately, the best thing is to have a home inspector who is licensed and insured with, through the state of New Jersey. They are qualified to go through a home and really assess uh, the current status of the home. So, if you thought, oh, it feels like this is leaning, or there's some sort of a pitch, or there's a bow in the floors, or, what might be happening with that roof, or what's happening in the attic, or in the basement, or with the plumbing, those are some of the issues that home inspectors, they're professionals. They know how to go through a home and check the mechanics of the home and tell you whether or not the mechanics are still within their useful life, or do you need to plan on having these things replaced? And sometimes that's where you once again kind of open up the conversation to negotiate based on whatever the findings are. So in terms of homes that are under contract, multifamilies in Montclair, there are 7 homes under contract that are multifamilies. And again, these are all 2-unit homes. I also think it's interesting that one of the homes in particular is under contract. It was listed at 525, so we won't know the actual sales price until the home has closed. But I thought it was interesting that it had been on the market 280 days. So if I were coaching my buyer and we were interested in this property, well, we're definitely going to take the number of days on market into account when we're attempting to make an offer on a property. So I do wonder, what was the story with this property? And you know what? Let's just click and take a closer look. So as I pull up the actual listing on Garden State, I can see that the average days on market is 6. The total days on market is 280. So to me, I would think that something happened. Maybe there was a contract for this property, and then maybe the deal fell apart, or something happened, someone could not agree to some terms. Let's see if I can look at the archive for the listing. So yeah, as I look through and dig a little bit deeper, I can see that this home had been in attorney review and then under status last year. Then it fell out and it became available again, and then it went under contract again. So something did happen. Of course, we would not know what that is. That's confidential. But I can see that this home definitely it has a story to tell just based on the days of market, 56 average days on market. So we know there were 2 contracts on that property. Um, and then when I look at the solds, actually, let me go back. So the homes that are under contract, the list price varies from $399 all the way to $699. And out of all of those, again, everything was still a 2-unit home. When I start to look at the sold properties, I think I saw a few. Here we go. So I see one on Claremont Avenue that was a 3-family home. It was listed for $649, and that home actually sold over asking for $802,500. The days on market says 15. So when I see that a home sold over asking, especially 15 days, that's practically just 2 weeks, that lets me know that like there was likely a don't want to say a bidding war, but there were multiple offers for sure on that property. And let me see, I want to just look at the photos. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful Victorian home. And when I look at the pictures, oh, wow. So in the kitchen on the first floor, they actually have oversized black and white tile. So it's kind of like a play on that old school diner tile. I actually have oversized tile in my bathroom. So when I saw that, made me smile. Um, so let's see, taking a look at the property. So it definitely looks like, I mean, the floors look beautiful. All the molding around the windows looks absolutely beautiful. The cased openings of the home looks beautiful. Maybe I'll try to infuse some of the photos of the properties I'm looking at into the YouTube video. I'll take a look into that. But it looks like this was a home that was kind of ready to go. So I could understand how someone might want to really get into this property knowing that you're not going to have a whole lot of work to do because it looks good. I see there were 2 properties. One I'm definitely familiar with. It was listed $675 on the market, 86 days. And then there's another home I'm familiar with. So there was a 4-family home in town listed at $699. It sold for $800,000 and it was on the market for 40 days. So what's interesting to me is to see a home sell for $100,000 over, but was on the market for 40 days. So again, it was still likely that there were multiple offers on the property. I just wonder why the days on market was, I don't want to say so high because that makes it sound like, the house on the market so long. I don't want to say it was that long, but because we already know there's such a shortage of multiple multifamily properties in town, I did think it was a little odd that it was on the market that long. Um, but it sold for $101,000 over asking, and that's a 4-family home. I'm actually pretty familiar with the home. I've never been inside, but I live nearby, so I see it all the time. Now, there was also a home on, let's see, this was on North Mountain. So it was listed at $739. It's a 4-family home and it sold for $905,000. This one was on the market for 17 days. So to me, I could understand clearly there were multiple offers on this property. So that's a whole nother thing. When I look at the properties which were sold, I can easily see how out of 40 homes, the last 40 multi-family homes in Montclair that were sold, let's see how many of them were over asking. Multifamily properties in Montclair, the last 40. So we don't know the time frame. I could probably dig a little deeper to see how long ago some of these homes sold, but 31 out of 40 being over asking is very telling. I also want to look at what sold under asking. So the least expensive property that sold under asking was listed for $399,999, and it sold for $399 flat. So it sold under asking, just slightly less than $1,000 under asking. It's a 2-unit multifamily property, and it was on the market 63 days. So perhaps there was someone who was working with a buyer who said, I know the value in having a multifamily property in Montclair, but I also want to make sure that I'm getting a fair price. And when I'm looking in the notes, let's see. It looks like it might have been a dual agency situation. It might have been the same agent who was on both sides of that transaction. But it's interesting that it actually sold under. There's a few other properties which sold under. We know there's a story with that. There's another one about 40,000 under asking, was on the market just over a month. And then let's see, there's another one, again, about 10,000 under asking. So, and that was on the market for 33 days, the one that was about 10,000 under. So I wonder if perhaps, if we want to try to create a narrative, we don't know, but I wonder if it might have been under asking due to maybe any findings like in a home inspection. Because remember I said earlier that once you're under contract, you're going to start scheduling your home inspection. And perhaps there were some findings and the buyer and seller agreed to maybe take a reduction in the price of the sale of the home in order to make the transaction go forward. So that's really interesting. There was another home which sold about $35,000 under asking. It was on the market 51 days. So again, I wonder if that has a similar story. Of course, I'd have to ask the agent, and if they decided to disclose that information, they could. It's not necessary, of course. But what I will say is for the final property which sold under asking, so this is interesting. So the original listing price was $735. It had been reduced to $6,995 and finally sold for $667,500. So that's really interesting. The average days on market was 35 days and the days on market was 51. So if I dig a little bit deep the listing archive, I can see that it looks like the status kind of went back and forth. So maybe the homeowner had the home on the market, pulled it off on the market because maybe there was something going on in the home. Not quite sure what the story was, but it looks like they did take the home off the market once, maybe twice throughout that whole 50 some odd days that it was listed. So that, to me, this is all very interesting data. So if you're a person who you love the idea of getting into the Montclair market because of all Montclair has to offer, right? So they're known for the schools and the arts and entertainment, and the parks are absolutely beautiful. The fact that we have 3 community pools is amazing. There's so much here, and I can completely understand why someone would like to come in and maybe be an owner occupant and rent out that other unit. But we're seeing right now that there just simply aren't that many homes on the market. So to me, I know it means I have to be very strategic in my approach if I'm working with a buyer who's interested in coming into this market. On the flip side, if I'm working with a seller, again, that you have to be very strategic in real estate. It's not just throw a number on the wall and see what sticks. You really have to think about a bunch of things, like how many homes are on the market? What do you anticipate is going to come to market? How long are things sitting? You know, these homes that are currently listed as available, one of them, the one that was the highest price, has been on the market 111 days. That's very telling. If I was working with the seller, I might be talking to them about, okay, perhaps we need a price improvement. What can we do with this property to make it attractive to someone so that they could come in and purchase it from me? And of course, if I were coaching my buyer, I would say to them, listen, based on all the data, everything we see that's sold in Montclair, how the homes actually were, if they're move-in ready, if they've been updated, do they have stone countertops and stainless steel everything and is it new and shiny? All of those things matter. And I definitely believe in partnering with my clients so that we can be very strategic and not just random in our approach to real estate. So that's my little spiel on the multifamily market that's happening right here in Montclair. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Tiffany Booker. I am a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New Jersey Properties. My office is in Montclair. I work, live, and play in Montclair, and I'm happy to help you. My phone number is 973-460-4674. Be well.